Council to order at 3:02 p.m. And adoption of the agenda, I'm going to ask for one amendment, and that is to swap items 4 and 5 on the agenda. And that is in order to have the delegation from Rimrock Feeders have their voice, because I know a lot of the public comments are going to be in relation to the Rimrock Feeders delegation, and those of you that want to speak to that will have your time to do so at that time. So I'll ask Councillor Barton for a motion that Council adopt the agenda for the regular Council meeting on September 12th as amended to swap items 4 and 5 on the agenda.
You have my motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Consent agenda. That's for a motion from Councillor Smith that following are adopted by omnibus motion in accordance with Council's procedure bylaw, the August 8th, 2022 regular Council meeting minutes, and the strategic priorities chart.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so leading into this delegation, just outline a few things here. The Rimrock Feeders delegation is here to discuss the increase in odor and possible solutions. Rimrock will make their presentation to Council and be available to answer questions from Council regarding the increased odor that High River is experiencing. If the public has questions for Council, they are welcome to ask those questions during our normal public questions and feedback portion of the meeting immediately following the delegation. The public will not have the opportunity to address Rimrock representatives. This is also not a public hearing for the biodigester. If Council or the public has questions about the permitting of the biodigester, they can take those up with Foothills County, Alberta Environment, or the NRCB. The Town of High River has no direct authority in any of the operating or permitting regulation of the feedlot. Now, if any member, I know there's a lot of emotion in play with this issue. I've got enough emails, I've got enough phone calls, so we need to be respectful in the Council chambers and during this meeting. So if any member of the public becomes disrespectful during the delegation, Council will end this delegation's presentation and we will move on with the agenda. Rimrock has no obligation to be here to address Town of High River Council. I asked them to attend after, of course, we've heard concerns from residents, and I called Kendra and asked her if they would be willing to come and answer some of our questions. And respectfully, they are here to do that. And we all need to respect this. So we'll move on, and we have Kendra, Doug, Shiloh, and Ty as the main presenters for today's delegation, and I'll hand the floor over to you, Kendra.
You need to push something?
Hang on.
There we go. Oh, yep. Okay. Council, is it okay if we go over the 5-minute designated time for our presentation? Yes?
I think that's fairly obvious.
Okay. I just wanted to, okay, so I'll pass it on to Dad here.
This is not going to be short, Kendra. We're okay for time.
Perfect.
That's why
So
you're
Dad
the
will
only
start.
delegation here today, so that we've allotted lots of time for you.
Yeah, I know Kendra and the team put together a presentation, and that's what we understood, that it would be more than 5 minutes. But basically, my name's Doug Price. I'm the chairman of Rimrock Cattle. And I'll maybe introduce my family members and our extended family that are here today. So on my right is Kendra, and she married Brian. Brian's the head of all our procurement of grains, and lines up all the trucks. And then my other family member is Tanae, my daughter Tanae, married Evan, and you guys, some of you have probably met Evan because he does all the manure handling, all the straw in, and all the silage and custom silage that we do with the neighbors coming into Rimrock. He's not here because he's stuck on a combine, and I think Tanae's probably stuck on a horse. So, so what I thought I would do, just outline a little bit, our investment here in Alberta and Saskatchewan is basically all ag. So we run feedlots about the same size as Rimrock up at the Acme area, and that's our home base, born and raised there. And then we have ranches in Drumheller, south of Hannah, east of Drumheller, Provost, Czar, Alberta, and also we run a bunch of cows up at Rocky Mountain House and south of Yorkton. And so just a comment that I wanted to make is I drive through Alberta a lot, and where community is very important to us, and where we go, when I drive in through communities, I can tell exactly where value-added agriculture is. So in schools and communities are very important to us, and wherever you see value-added agriculture, whether it's High River or Drumheller, for example, if you have value-added, whether it's hogs, chickens, beef cattle, the schools are open, the communities are vibrant. Wherever you don't have value-added agriculture in rural Alberta, they're really struggling. So I just wanted to make that comment. And then Kendra's going to take over here and with a presentation and introduce the people that work with us that we figure that's our extended family. They are the top in the industry, and we're so proud of being able to work with them.
Can the mic be turned up? Nobody can hear anything.
We can try, but it will start to feedback at some point in time, which then I'll have to bring it back down.
Okay. Well, can you hear me all right now? Okay, well, I'm done now, so I'm gonna turn it over to my daughter, Kendra. She's the CFO of all our companies, and she's gonna introduce the rest of our team members.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks. I just want to say a big thank you, Council, for letting us present today and showing who we are and what we do on a daily basis. So that's kind of what our presentation is about. But we're also going to touch on our odor mitigation strategies. It's an everyday thing that we work on. So we'll talk about what we do every day to try and prevent odor. And then we're going to touch on supporting our communities. And also we have a few other businesses here, as well as Janice Tramberg from Alberta Feeders Association, where we'll show a video about how feedlots can add to a community. And then, of course, we'll take questions from council after that. So who are we? We're pretty simple. We're, just like Dad mentioned, we're multi-generation ranching and farming Alberta family. We've really focused all our investment here in Alberta, and we are multi-generation, as you can see with Dad and I sitting here, but we have lots of third generation coming up. Across our family businesses, we employ over 100 team members, each entity raising cattle and producing high-quality beef. So our team, this is our management team for High River. So as Dad mentioned, I'm in the bottom left-hand corner, Kendra Donnelly, CFO of the organization. To the right of me, depending on how you're looking, in the white cowboy hat is my brother-in-law, Evan, that Dad mentioned, does all the silage and manure management. And then on the top left-hand corner is our manager here at High River, Shiloh Penrod. So he's going to be presenting with me throughout the presentation. And then, of course, Dad introduced himself, and my mom as well works very diligently to bring lots of opportunity to us as a family, but also to lots of communities that we live in. So who else is on our team? Well, there's a crew of us, and I want to quickly introduce a few others here. Katie Keats is to my left there. She manages all our administration and office team. And then we have Roberto there. He's the assistant manager to Shiloh here at High River. And then we have Angie at the far right of me there. She is our controller for all of our businesses. Then we have Dr. Ty Parrott. He's one of the founders, a veterinarian of Feedlot Health by Feedlot Health by TELUS Agriculture. So council, if you have any animal health or questions, we thought it would be good for Ty to come to answer some of those. And then Janice Tranberg from ACFA, who will talk to the economic impact a feedlot can have in a community, and we have a video that will highlight that. So odor mitigation strategies.
Okay, just hang on, Kendra.
Yeah.
I got about 9 YouTube videos going on in this room. It's really hard to figure out what's going on. So, is it all out there? Okay. We turn it down just a hair out there because it's all coming all the way back in here. But we'll try to get through this.
Okay.
Continue on.
Sorry. Okay. Yes, please interrupt me if you can't hear anything. So I will pass it on to Shiloh. He's going to speak to number 1 and 2 of our odor mitigation strategies, and then I will highlight number 3 and 4. So.
Can you hear me okay? No? It's all right. How's that?
That's good.
Okay, so on the issue of manure management, the primary goal of our manure management is to remove the manure from the feedlot, and that will help to reduce the odor. We're limited by the times of the year that we can remove the manure and spread it on the land, either before the crop is put in the spring and after the crop is harvested in the fall. So we're currently involved in that practice. We're removing the manure from the pens and spreading it on the land, working it into the soil, which gets rid of the odor, and that's our primary goal of odor mitigation, is to just get rid of the source of that odor. During the winter, we can't haul to the land when the ground is frozen. But throughout the year, because of the way that we're constructed, we're able to continuously clean pens and stack that manure, which allows us to be able to haul it out quicker when we can, and it also reduces the surface area that is exposed, so that should help lessen the odor. Moving on to the catch basin and pen maintenance. We have a catch basin that will collect the stormwater, any rain that we get throughout the year, or snow melt, and that catch basin has been designed for the previous occupants of that site, and we have not done anything to alter that, or it's how it was in the previous. And as far as pen maintenance, like I mentioned, all of our pens are rolled compacted concrete pen floors, and normally for a feedlot, when conditions are wet, that's when the odor is the greatest, and you're not able to get in there and clean those pens until it dries, where we are able to go in and remove the manure on a regular basis.
Okay, so then, there we go, sorry. So number 3 is our research, development, technology, and investment. So as a company, on just broader sense, we really believe in investing and being a competitor in the industry and a leader, world-class leader within our industry. So Rimrock here in High River is actually quite unique. We've invested a significant amount to, like Shiloh mentioned, in rolled compacted concrete. So a traditional pen floor is clay lined, but we've invested in rolled compacted concrete as the pen lining. So like Shiloh mentioned, we can always be finding strategies and getting in the pen to remove that manure. When traditional pens, you wouldn't necessarily be able to get in there at May, for example, when you should be spreading that manure in the field and working it in the soil to mitigate that odor. Traditional pen floors, you might not be able to get in there till June, so you're lost 30 days of removing that odor, when we can get in that pen much sooner than a traditional feedlot, and that came with a significant investment. So that's just one example of our company really trying to be world-class, really trying to find ways that we can improve as an operation. And that one is really related to odor mitigation, the rolled compacted concrete. There's many other examples, but that's just one that we've really focused on, and the biodigester would be another one of us investing in something that we feel will mitigate odor. And then lastly, we are constantly looking for feedback and constantly looking to improve as an organization at every level. So council, one thing I would want to invite you and to come tour our feedlot. We're always looking for ways to improve in all aspects, not just odor, and we tour many different organizations. Shiloh will highlight that in a later slide. And then we work with other organizations to try and improve as a company. NRCB is one of them, our regulator. Feedlot Health is another one that, they come up with an idea. We go back and forth on how we might be able to implement that, and then management executes. So we're always looking for feedback, and we're always looking to improve as an organization. Okay, so I'll pass it back to Shiloh.
So we're proud to be a part of this community. Since we've opened this feedlot in 2019, we have always supported local businesses. There's a lot of economic spin-off that comes with our business, and some of that is purchasing local agricultural products from local farmers with silage, barley, straw, and also being involved in the community with the agricultural implements dealers, supply companies within town. So we've been glad to be a part of this community and to support the local businesses. We're also very proud to be a part of this community. This organization is focused on things related to, kids and kids events. So we have been glad to help support some of the events that go on in this town, and being involved with things like the rodeo, 4-H in High River, and that type of thing. We like to be a big part of this community. And then, as Kendra alluded to earlier, we pride ourselves on being at the front of the industry as far as how we're structured and the way our feedlot is built. We're proud of what we do, and we show it to people, and we're recognized as a site that people want to bring tours to and show them what this industry does in Alberta. So throughout the last few years, we've welcomed a number of tours that range from political leaders from different countries. This summer we had Pacific Northwest Economic Region toured. We're proud to host the federal ag minister this summer, and Janice has been there on some of those tours. We've also toured, we had a delegation from an Asian country that's looking to increase Canadian imports of beef products. So they come to Rimrock as a site to see some of the good things that are being done in our industry, to have some comfort with the practices that we do here in Canada, specifically in High River, to try to spur international trade. And another big part of the tours that we do is we have had tours with universities and some of the ag programs throughout Alberta, and 4-H clubs throughout Alberta also. And like I said, we're proud of what we do. We like to show people opportunities exist in agriculture in Alberta, and answer some of the questions people have about producing safe, reliable food. And as I mentioned, and Kendra can probably add more to this, we enjoy being part of this community. High River is a really nice community, and it's got a lot of green spaces, and people want to live here. It's recognized as a good community to live in, and we're adding to this community. We have team members that have moved to the area. both from Alberta and from other places, and they're happy to become part of this community too, enrolling their kids in schools in High River and becoming part of that extended community.
I agree. Yeah, no, we're just really happy to be part of the High River community. And again, Council, just thank you for having us here so we could explain what we do on a daily basis. So I have a quick video that I'll show here, and then we'll move to questions. Sound's not working, I don't think.
How do we get the audio up, Kent?
The audio is...
How important is the video, Kendra? How important is the video?
Yeah, instead of the video, I don't know if Janice is comfortable speaking, but yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I think
So-
we'll just because we just got this system,
Yeah,
today's the
that's
first day
fair.
we're running this system, so if there's a glitch, then I get
Sure.
it. But, so maybe we'll just move on, we'll skip the video and.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I don't have, I'm not going to be able to say it quite as nicely as the video did. And we will be releasing that in the next week or two so others can take a look at it. But basically, we did a study just the last year on the impact of the cattle feeding sector in Alberta. So this is not specific just to this region, but it's across the entire province. And really, it came out to show that close to $3 billion, so $2.9 billion, is the impact of this industry. Now, that looks at specifically on the farm, but then also all the multipliers, trucking, feed, housing, schools, all of that. So it's the direct and indirect impact. It also came to show that 667,000 jobs are directly involved in the Alberta cattle feeding sector. Wish I had better notes here. And if we broke that down a little bit more, you could show that per 100 cows relates to one job. So if we take a feedlot like the one here at High River, I'm looking at you guys. You have about 50 employees. So multiply that by their family and what they bring. So GDP directly, the relation in GDP is gross domestic product is $649 million. So really, it's just to say that sort of what Doug said at the very beginning is that the communities that have value added in their community, it really brings a lot of value. Okay.
Per week.
Just to reiterate that, like I took a quick look at what we spend per week, and we spend $1.5 million a week here every week of the year.
So yeah, that's our presentation. So we're open to now questions.
Thanks, Kendra, and thanks very much, Doug and Shiloh, for presenting and being here today. So right now, I've talked to council before this meeting, we will definitely take you up on the offer of a tour out at the feedlot. So I know it fairly well, but others haven't been there. So I'll just open it up for questions from councilors. And the system is not programmed with your names in it yet, so I really have no idea other than to count seats. So I think it's from Brenda, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you everyone for coming today to learn more about our neighbors with Rimrock feeding. Thank you for sharing your information. I think one of the biggest questions I have as a resident of High River, and I think several of the others, can you tell us a little bit about what has changed the pungency of the smells that are coming our way? I think that's the biggest question.
In reference to the smell at this time in this year, it's specifically because of the amount of rainfall that we had in June. So we cleaned pens in the spring, and then we had significant rainfall in June, which we haven't had in the last couple of years. And so now we're at a point in the year, the land that we will spread on, most of it is harvested, so we're starting to remove the manure. But in that time between when we had the rain and we were able to remove the manure, that's what it was. As when the manure is wetter, it definitely will have a stronger odor. And as it sits exposed in the, throughout the summer, that odor will change as biological processes occur.
Oh, good, thank you. So the volume hasn't changed in what you're processing, more so the volume of water is changing the outcome. Perfect, thanks.
If anything, the volume has actually decreased this year. Our occupancy has been lower.
Any further questions from council? Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass, and thanks to all of you for attending and for providing your delegation today and the information you have. Any of you sitting there live in High River? Just put, no, not you people back there. I'm familiar with lots of you, but thank you for doing that. I'm talking about the delegation table. You live near the feedlot. You don't live in High River. Okay. I appreciate value add for agriculture because that's the business that I run. If you're not aware, I'm the president of Highwood Distillers, so we're involved in the ag industry as well. So I appreciate all that. When you talk about, Doug, 1.5 million a week, that's direct to business in High River, because we're talking about community here, and there's two different communities. There's the community of High River, then there's the county, and then there's Alberta, the community as a whole. And I'm not here to point fingers and be mad that, you know, some nights I can't sit on my deck because there's a nasty smell. I'm looking for how do we work together to resolve it. The town of High River can't do anything to you or your business. So respectfully, and thank you for coming, we want to try and come to that resolution of you know, how can important business like yourselves operate, and how can a community like High River and the residents that live here enjoy their community? Because we're a long ways off right now, in my opinion, with what's happened. Now, respectfully, like, agriculture is incredibly important to our province. It's incredibly important to every person in this room for all kinds of different aspects. We talk about the economic impact. We talk about the biodigester maybe making a difference. Can we be honest and say that's an economic opportunity for you guys and the partnerships that you're establishing? It's a power source, right, that you can sell. So maybe it's going to have some effect on it, but if we're going to come to a resolution, and we want to be part of this in whatever way we can be as a community, I'm sure the county does as well, as do you guys. How do we all work together to try to find that way that we can all live together, right, in the best way possible? So I struggle as I try to put myself in the situation you guys are in if the distillery made a smell that people really didn't like. Generally, people think it smells like puff wheat, but anyway, in all the years I've been there, there was one person that thought I might be killing them, but not the case. So I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and it's really difficult. There's no magic pill, right? There's no magic solution. But what we're really looking for as a community is that openness and transparency about how maybe we get there. And you know, the economic stuff aside, that's important. But respectfully don't come here to us and our community and say, these are the dollars that we're spending, these are the dollars that it creates for Alberta, these are the dollars that it creates for Canada. Lots of businesses and lots of business people in this community, in the county, contribute in lots of different ways, and that's important. There's this smell problem, and that's what we want to work with and try to have some understanding on. I can't thank you enough for coming, and especially since you sat here in this room and the room outside filled up. Can't be easy. And I really thank you all for attending and being here. That shows, and should show to our community, that they have a respect for us as a community, of our citizens, of the problem that's going on. They didn't have to come here today, folks. They really didn't. They didn't owe us anything. So thank you for that. A few, you know, comments I made, I guess, and I just hope that we can, you know, work together some more in some way, shape, or form. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that, Councillor. And that's why we would like to tour you guys. We are more than happy to work with you, and we really wanted to come here to introduce ourselves and show what odor mitigation strategies we're currently doing. But we're open to continue to improve as an organization. So thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Killick-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I'm curious about the digester. So when you talk about an increased opportunity for the odor reduction by use of that, can you explain to us a little bit more about that process? Because that's something that's still a bit of a wild card for many of us to know.
Yeah, sure, and then Dad or Shiloh, feel free to jump in. So my family and I have been pretty passionate about this biodigester project. We've been working on it for 4 years. And the main reason why we started down this path for High River is we're not naive to the fact that there is quite a few residents around our feedlot. And so we wanted to find an opportunity for odor mitigation. A biodigester, just logically for our family, is we are able to remove the odor the manure every single day, which is the reason, well, that's what you smell is the manure. And so the fact that we can go in our pens, remove that manure every single day and put it in the biodigester, just logically we felt like that would be an odor mitigation. So that is why we invested in this biodigester, or plan to, here in High River versus Acme, for example, where we live right next to our feedlot or in the feedlot. And that was one of the reasons why we chose High River over Acme.
You still up, Kelly?
Yeah, I'm still up. Thank you. Okay, so what is there a projected sort of anticipatory reduction percentage that you can share with us as far as odor mitigation? And then what are the contingency plans if something ever went wrong with that? I mean, if that's going to be your primary strategy, then what?
Right, so I can't, there's some research out there on odor mitigation, but we don't want to promise anything, but just logically we feel like we can prevent odor by putting manure into a biodigester, which captures the gas, right? Yeah. Yeah, further questions could definitely be directed to the team who's looking at building that biodigester.
Okay, and
Just the farmer logic, if we pull the gas off of it, that's the way I think of it. We pull the gas off it, it's renewable natural gas that we can sell as a green fuel. So just the way I think on the basic side, if we can pull the gas, capture the gas, hopefully there'll be less odor.
when do you anticipate this facility's construction and completion and startup?
We hope to be starting up January of 2024. So there is, but recognize that this is a huge investment and that, it's not in, it's one way we can mitigate odor, but we're going to have odor. We're just trying our best to mitigate it as best we can.
So I don't have any further questions from councillors, but I've got one of my own. And Kendra and you and I've kind of touched on this a little bit. And so everybody knows I'm a former employee of, not of Western Feedlots directly, but of Charlie Flowers. So I drove shit truck out there for a number of years. That's just what we called it. So be offended by my swearing, but that'll be fine. I also drove silage truck, everything else, and then I was also employed out at Diamond V Feeders out at Wambex, further west, for a number of years. So I get it, and I get the smell and everything else, but there is no question that there is an increase in the smell from when Western Feedlots was operating. There is just there's an intensity about it that's just, it's different, right? And a lot of people look at it and talk about it being, it smells more like a pig barn or a, dairy farm or something. So my question is, because Doug, when you first told me that you were going to concrete all the pens, I think my words were holy shit, that you would actually, that a feedlot of your size would do that. Now, I get why you did it, because getting trucks in and out of wet clay pens is a nightmare, and it's hard, and you got to rebuild the clay constantly and everything else. So I get the operational point of it. But do you feel there's a lack of absorption of the liquids, urine, rain, leaching, that's lost, that would be the increase to the odor? I'm just spitballing here.
To address that subject, essentially if you have clay-lined pens, the idea behind a clay lining is that becomes an impermeable barrier to the ground. So to differentiate that from concrete, there should be negligible difference. I think if you look at the design of the feedlot, the catch basin is still the same. The biggest difference that we can definitively say is that we're able to go into those pens throughout the year and stack that manure up. And as we are able to spread that on the land, that is our number one odor mitigation, which will make a difference. If you remove the source of the odor, there will be less.
And on that, Shiloh, so the biodigester, doing my little looks at biodigesters online, but I'm careful to say the words doing my own research, because that's frowned upon anymore, but the biodigester would allow you to continually be dealing with manure rather than stockpiling it for a certain amount of time. You're able to just run that thing constantly to deal with it and hopefully lessen some of the smell, correct?
Yes, correct. That's the operational plan, is that manure would be removed daily from the feedlot to the digester.
Okay. Well, I don't have any more questions, so what we'll do is, Kendra, you'll work with our administration, we'll figure out when we can do the tour out there, because I haven't been there since the whole thing's been operating. It was shortly after you'd opened, but we're having the visual for the others is very important, and I can't thank you enough, Kendra, because you answer my phone calls, you answer my texts immediately. You've been great as far as communicating with us in a municipality that has no direct authority over what you guys do, so it's greatly appreciated that you're here. You knew what you were coming into, you were very aware of this, so being here is very, very much appreciated.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do, the delegation's now over, so it is now just moving into our public comments section. So I think, Alicia, do you have the microphone? If anybody does have comments, we'll just take a few minutes. I'm not going to take 2.5 hours to deal with this, but 15 or 20 minutes we can do it. If there's anybody here, we've got a number of comments that were sent to us prior to this meeting that are printed in the agenda, so I'm not going to go through and read all of those. They are there if you wish to read them. Very similar comments as to what's come from council members. So if there's anybody that does have a comment, you're more than welcome to just put your hand up and they show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'll speak up louder. Is that better? Okay. I want to know, and I've heard rumors, that your company is buying up land around your operation. Other farms, land around.
Okay, I'm just going to stop you for a second. This is for you to address council with questions, not to address Rimrock. Okay? This isn't a public hearing that you're going to address Rimrock and ask them direct questions on their operation.
What I'd like to know is, since the council and this town doesn't have any teeth in changing what happens with this operation, how are we going to fix it? When we talk about investment, all the residents have invested their money in their homes. And I have talked to people who are leaving, and I'd like to know, maybe you could count how many people are leaving the town because of this problem. I know they've said that to me when I told them about my experience of waking up in the morning and smelling like a herd of cows have come into my home. I've left my windows open overnight, and it smells intolerable. It's not a smell, it's not an odor, it's a stench. And it's gotten worse. I've only lived here in this town for 3 years. And in my experience, it's gotten consistently worse every year. In addition, I wonder whether the people who come to visit from other countries, delegations who take the tour, know of the impact they are having on our community. I would venture to say they wouldn't invest in something like this if they knew the impact on their own populations. They'd lose voters. I wonder whether we have, how many animals, I wonder, how many animals does this operation currently host? I know that I heard as many as 50,000 heads of cattle. That this is one of the largest feedlots, if not in Alberta, even in Canada. And if it's going to get bigger, I, who've invested a great deal to live in this community, I don't want to be here. I already feel that way and have felt that way all this year. On the Father's Day weekend, I remember noting how bad it got. I woke up and all I could smell were cattle. Now, I don't mind cattle on a ranch. We're talking about something else. And I wonder, is there a plan afoot to enlarge your operation? Do you know about this, Mr. Mayor and Council?
I don't think there's any plan to expand the actual feedlot at this time.
Or the operation on the land?
Well, there's dirt being removed for the biodigester at this point in time, but that's at their risk because they're not even permitted for that yet. But
right. And what does this biodigester produce at the end?
Natural gas.
Is it compostable?
Methane gas, natural gas.
So it
and
produces
compost
more
at the
gas. Where does the gas go?
So just so that everybody knows, the NRCB, the regulator of the feedlot industry, has requested to come to next council meeting, September 26th? Is that right? So they're going to come as a delegation as well. You're all welcome to attend again and ask them direct questions about biodigester permitting, the operating, and everything else. I can't answer those.
So maybe you could tell me, I have called and written to the Alberta Environment. I've left notes on their website. I did get a response, and I was told that they can't do anything. I feel like I'm being run over by a corporation, and I've had a lot of that in my life in the past, and I don't like it. And I would venture to say a lot of people here don't either. Why should we be at the effect of a corporation for which we can do nothing that is affecting us and spoiling our life? Why is it I can't go out into my garden and work in my garden or take a walk along the river walk because I can't breathe? It's so full of this stench. Why? Why should we? I don't care how many millions of dollars this company is spending. I wonder where it's all going, actually, because I don't see any effect of that in the community here.
Well, I'll encourage you to come and talk to the NRCB. They are the only ones that can really...
Well, I just want to say, For me, it's nix. I am not in favor of it. I am not happy about what's happening, and I don't want it to get worse because it's already terrible
Okay,
and intolerable.
thank you.
Thank you. Here's the problem. The town can't do anything about it. You talk to the county passes the buck to the NRCB. Talk to the NRCB, what they tell you...
I need you to go a little closer to your mic, some of the others.
What they tell you is the NRCB will tell you that they're in place to deal with the regulations. Regulations set a minimum standard for anything. Electrical code, building code, whatever those things are, set the minimum standards. As long as you're meeting those minimum standards, you're okay. If this feedlot was located 300 miles away, I guess minimum standards would be fine. It's located 5 clicks out of town with a westerly wind that blows stench in here every day. I've been trying to talk to Roger Reed. I don't know, he passed me on to Jason Nixon, who passes you back to the NRCB. It's like a merry-go-round, and I appreciate what you're saying. It seems like there's nothing we can do. We talk about value added and quality of life in our community. High River gets no taxes from this. The beef is shipped out of here. On top of that, as far as value added, I had company here this year 3 times. Couldn't go out on the deck in the morning for coffee. Couldn't go out in the evening and barbecue. Every one of those people who were here left telling me, how do you live with the stink here? So the problem for this town, who had a major flood here in 2013, and has spent 9 years with all kinds of flood mitigation efforts and everything else, trying to convince people that this isn't the town that floods all the time, now has to deal with the town that stinks all the time. And that's the reality. Talk to anybody here, stinks all the time. One of the people here actually that works for the city, lives 2 blocks from me, started recording stink days, as they call them. After they talked to the NCRB, I don't know how many times, and tried to do the runaround, the same thing I've done, and probably a lot of people in this town have done. It's a runaround. You can't get a direct answer. No one's responsible. So from July 20th to August 31st, which was something like 42 days, there was only 9 days that didn't stink. And what I'm being told now is the reason it stunk so bad this year is because we got a lot of rain in June. It's been plus over 30 in this community all through July and August. I mean, we get rain in June every year in Alberta. I mean, if that's the reason it stunk this year, I mean, I don't know what the reason is going to be next year. Some of the things that were mentioned here, like concrete pens, okay, it makes it easier to clean the pen. But all that stuff that doesn't soak into the ground runs into catch basins. Now, I don't know the catch basins out there. Are people, is that stuff being injected into the ground like some people do? I don't think so. I think it's being pivoted and sprayed. That stuff gets sprayed in the air and probably blows into town. The land base out there, this isn't a farming issue. I mean, we were led to believe that this is farming and agriculture. I farmed for 20-some years. My wife is a 3rd-generation rancher. My place stunk like this. What this is a commercial cattle operation. There's 35,000 head of cows on a plot of land that isn't big enough to call a hobby farm. It's not a farming operation. So that should be made clear to everybody that we're being told that, you know, we're a farming community. I mean, a lot of us have farmed in the past. We didn't have to put up with this kind of stench. It's not acceptable. And if this is a world-class operation, I'd like to live next to one that wasn't world-class, because if it stinks 80% of the time here, what's it like with these producers that cannot control the odor? So I, like this lady here, am not happy. I don't think there's enough being done. The problem is, if the regulations allow this kind of stink to happen on a daily basis in this town, then the regulations need to be changed. They need to be changed to a point where we can live and have quality of life in this town where we can walk on our dikes, go out in our backyards, walk around town, and not be known as the town that stinks all the time.
Fair points. Thank you. So the NRCB has had investigators in High River over the summer. So they will be speaking to that as well, and then I don't know what the details are, what their findings are and everything else. I don't know how they decipher all of that stuff. So they'll be here on the 26th as well. So, you know, Western feedlots opened up in what, 79, 80, something like that? They, and shut down in 2015, 16, something like that. So, you know, this issue has been in High River for a long time. It's been, the issue now is that the significant increase in that odor. That's the issue. And how do we mitigate that? What's the change? What's happened? What are we doing? So, you know, what can the NRCB do? What are they doing? Alberta Environment? No, they're going to pass you off, as you've experienced. You know, us, I believe wholly in working together with Rimrock to find solutions, because nobody's denying that there isn't an increase in an issue. So let's work together and try to figure out what we can, where the problem is, what can we do. That's really the basis. That's the only thing the town of High River can do, that's for sure. Other questions? Just take two more questions here, then we got to move on with our agenda.
I was just curious, is the town planning to form some sort of a committee where we could start working together to come up with a solution and to properly inform the town as to what's going on? I'm curious also, has air quality tests been done? Because what you're smelling is not healthy, and you can't tell me that it's okay.
So a committee has not been discussed dealing with this yet, Tanya, but having the air quality test, that's all being done by the NRCB. That's who's doing that.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for giving me some time to answer a question. I've lived in High River for 17 years. I know many of you have lived here a lot longer. I used to think that maybe shortly after the frost went out of the ground, we had odors. And it lasted a short time and we put up with it and it was over with. That isn't the case now. But I think it would help the council if they knew a little bit about biodigesting, so they could ask the questions about it. I've worked 26 years in Nepal. Biodigesting isn't a new process. I've worked in rural communities there where biodigesting has become very common. And granted, it's on a much smaller scale than what Rimrock has to put up with. However, it does have some benefits that come out of it. And I've seen rural farms that have no electricity at all, no light in their homes, no gas to cook with, that their biodigesting process has given them that opportunity, and they use the gas that's produced from their biodigesting to benefit their home and their lifestyle and give them benefits they didn't have before. It seems to me there must be, in a process the size that the Rimrock's biodigester would take care of, a great financial benefit that could come from that. And granted, it's expensive to establish, but have they looked at what they can get out of that biodigester in the way of mitigation of that expense? And I think that's questions that we need to ask. Maybe they're not, that doesn't fit in with their business plan, but maybe it should. So I think that there are some things here that are not being looked at and should be.
One more question, Alicia, please.
We just moved to High River 2 years ago. Great town, love it. And I can't smell, so I'm here as as a supporting spouse. But I can tell her smells works good, and she tells me it's bad all the time. I appreciate the economic benefit of a feedlot, but when you think of a feedlot being 6 miles in the west, prevailing winds, my wife came from Brooks. She understands the sort of impact that has in a town. $1.5 million a month coming into the town, I'm sure would go away very quickly if this smell stays here long term. So whether it be homes not being sold, people not moving in, whatever it is, there has to be a solution to this. Nobody's against raising cattle, and nobody's against feedlots, because they're all over and we go and buy beef every day. But there has to be a solution to the smell. We can coexist, but it has to happen quickly, somehow.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I think we're all on the same page as what this gentleman just stated, that we coexist and we have to find a way to work together, and I thank Rimrock for being here today to show we're doing exactly that, and we'll continue from here. So we'll get the tour organized and we'll do that, and NRCB will be here and we'll go through that process with them, and we'll continue on. Thanks very much. Doug, Kendra, Shiloh, appreciate it. So I'll take a couple of minutes just to let the room clear out, because Okay, we'll move on with item 6.1, being the amending environmental reserve bylaw. Chris and Jody.
I can speak to the next two items on the agenda, Mayor Snodgrass. This is an amendment to the existing environmental reserve bylaws that Council adopted in July of 2022 in regards to the Wallaceville, Beachville, and Rio Vista lands. They were rejected by the Land Title Office as inappropriate plans, and we had to come back with both a survey plan as well as remove a couple of properties that had environmental reserve on it. So this is, in essence, a housekeeping issue to continue moving forward with the acquisition of the Wallaceville, Beechwood, and Rio Vista lands.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Well, we all know what we're dealing with, so. Ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that council give first reading to bylaw 4608-2022 and that council give second reading to the previously mentioned bylaw and that all council present give unanimous consent to proceed with third and final reading of bylaw 4608-2022.
You have my motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council give third and final reading to bylaw 4608-2022.
I'll give you that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Again, on the environmental reserve cleanup. Chris, 4609.
Certainly, this is, I summarized it previously with the previous report as well. This is just the follow-up change to the environmental reserve bylaw as described. Can't remember which one this is for, but this is to add the survey plan, I believe, to the bylaw so that land titles will register the plan. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Nychuk that council give first and second reading to bylaw 4609-2022 and that all council present give unanimous consent to proceed with third and final reading of bylaw 4609-2022.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council give third and final reading to bylaw 4609-2022.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Bylaw services level of service change. Cody?
Afternoon, Mayor and Council. I come before you guys today to present a change in level of service. In 2021, Council adopted a bylaw level of service which brought our brought the service from Foothills County in-house to Town of High River Run. As you see Officer Kessel in the back, he's one of our officers. So with that business case, it outlined a community peace officer level 1 team lead, so which is kind of a supervisor for the program, and then a CPO1, which is a community peace officer level 1, and then it also outlined a bylaw compliance officer. So as we started down the road of building this program out, we wanted to take a slow approach to it, really look at the data, really look at what our call volume is, what we're getting for complaints, and more so the type of complaints. Are they bylaw? Are they speeding? Combination of. So we've now had 9 months to really dig deep into what our stats look like and what's actually happening. And hence why I'm bringing this forward, because it is a change to the model that Council did approve that we're proposing, and that is to move from the bylaw compliance officer to a community peace officer level 1. In your Council package, you'll notice that there is a bit of a cost implication to that, to the annual budget. And when we look at the wage and the benefits difference, that is right down to vacation accruals, sick accruals, benefits, and also our hourly wage. So depending upon which step, it's anywhere between $6,300 and change up to about $7,800 annually. Some of the benefits and some of the things that we wanted to kind of present on as part of our case is also the difference between a bylaw officer and a community peace officer level 1. I think it's really important that we all understand what kind of the authorities of those officers are. So a bylaw officer has the ability to regulate and enforce only town bylaws. So that is no provincial statutes, that's no speeding, that's no open alcohol in a park, unless it's written into our bylaw, then that becomes sometimes a gray area. So there are some things like that when we start talking about some of the programs that they have access to, roads and moves, which is a provincial registry that as a community peace officer level 1, you can access information on abandoned vehicles, all that sort of stuff. So when you start dealing with our files, and we are seeing some of those files where we do need to pull abandoned vehicle information up. So Officer Kessler has the ability to do that, but with a bylaw officer, they would not have the authority to actually grab that provincial data. On top of that, I kind of laid out some of the acts that our community peace officers have over and above a bylaw compliance officer, and that's Dangerous Dogs Act, Animal Protection, Environmental Protection, Gaming and Liquor and Cannabis, Highway Developments, Petty Trespassing, Administrative Penalties, Provincial Penalties, Tobacco, Smoking and Vaping, Traffic Safety Act, and Trespass to premise. Sorry. So those are all the enhanced scopes that our community peace officers level 1 would have. So again, if we have issues in certain areas and we need to trespass, as we've been dealing with on some of our private lands around town, that's where our community peace officers come in, where our bylaw officer wouldn't have the authority to do that. So kind of overall wanted to really make sure that we had a good understanding. It's not community peace officers aren't just out there doing the traffic stuff. There is a substantial scope of what they have the ability to do. Some of the other components to that are if we start writing violation tags or tickets that are town tags, we then have to provide the cost of the prosecution for that particular offense under a town tag. If there is sections under any of the provincial statutes listed that we could fit that offense under, we write on a provincial statute tag, which then doesn't cost us the money for prosecution. They just take a percentage of that fine. So there is a bit of a cost savings for us writing on provincial statutes. Even some of our bylaw offenses do sometimes transition over into provincial statutes tickets. As an example, we've got one that we're dealing with right now. It was $1,500, but we were able to write it onto a provincial statute under the Dangerous Dogs Act as opposed to our own town bylaw. So it just makes it simpler that way. Steve, do you have anything to add? Any questions from council?
Did you get your bike fixed, Steve? Do we got video of that? It's unfortunate. Any questions from council? Councillor Kinghorn.
Sorry, Mayor Stragler, I forgot that your light doesn't light up over there. A question about the CPO level 1. Is this thing, is this working okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. CPO level 1 can issue moving violations, and are we going to start to work on that a little bit then going forward with this new position?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So since Austin is Community Peace Officer Level 1 and Brett Anderson is our Community Peace Officer Level 1, they have been working on moving violations. Now, with that being said, we took a lot of the information that was in the business case and tried to roll it out into something that was, made sense for us on the street. And that was a lot of stuff around, we didn't want our guys out there just doing traffic. Right? I mean, we have RCMP that we pay a substantial amount of money for, so it's now helping to make sure that they're being directed to where we're having issues with the support of our officers. So far this year, we've got the stats, and we have only written 37 traffic tickets this year. However, under the Traffic Safety Act, we've written 65 warning tickets. So meaning we've pulled somebody over, we've given them that warning to slow down, put your seatbelt on, whatever. So we're trying to now take what council really pushed forward in that business case of the proactiveness, the education, and starting to roll that out. So you will see our guys on 12th Avenue or other areas around the community with their lights going with somebody pulled over. It's not our main focus. Obviously our main focus is the bylaw stuff, the complaints that we get in through dispatch, report of concern. That is our main focus. And when you look at our file load, we are sitting right now at 917 files for 2022 for our department. That's just complaints. For our department right now, and then you add the warnings and the tickets into there as well for traffic stops. So,
no further questions. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn, that administration recommends transitioning the bylaw compliance officer position to a community peace officer level 1, and the council supports this.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I'll give you that motion.
All in favor? Carried. Thanks, gentlemen. Pump track update from Kaylee.
Good afternoon, Mayor Snodgrass and Council. I have recently met with the pump track, so this is going to serve as a bit of an update and also a request for funds. We went through the itemized list, and Council has already previously approved some additional funds to cover the cost of the irrigation, which was $16,380,000. Now, taking into consideration all the other amenities that need to take place before the track actually opens, we're looking at an additional set of funds of $18,156.64. And then we threw some contingency on there for $15,000. So you'll notice actually the spreadsheet in the report is incorrect. So I'm just giving you the new numbers right now. So the resolution will also need a revision talking about the $33,200, which includes a $15,000 contingency, not $5,000. And this will see the park be completed. So this will get the sod in place. The sod delivered, the concrete pads have already been poured for the picnic tables, which have been donated. We'll be able to order waste bins, continue to pay for the temporary fencing that's in place, order a bike rack, and pay for the pump track sign for the base for it to be installed, because the sign itself is being donated as an in-kind donation. And this also covered some of the costs for some of the drainage that we were requiring for the site to ensure that we had appropriate storm drainage on site. You'll also notice that the bleachers have been removed as an additional cost for the future, and the reason why that's been removed is until we get the park completed and built and get it fully landscaped, which is supposed to be taking place next year, we want to ensure that there's going to be adequate space available for the bleachers. So we can address that at a later date. Was there any questions that I could answer?
Questions from council? I can't tell who's wanting what. Councillor Nychuk, I think.
Good job, Mayor Snodgrass. You're navigating that well. Contingency.
Yeah,
15 grand. So the ask was for 18 and change.
Yeah.
We're going to throw another 15 on top of there. Contingency, that word always just kind of gets me. To me, it's like slush fund. So tell me why I should say yes.
That's a really good question, especially in the case of this project. A lot of this project is being completed by volunteers. So should we have a challenge in getting volunteers to show up, this allows us to have some funds available to bring contractors in to complete the work so that we're still meeting an adequate timeline to getting the park open. And also, you know, for instance, when the sod gets delivered, we only have so long to get it down. So if we don't have adequate enough volunteers to show up, instead of losing all of that sod, we would then bring contractors in to complete the installation of that sod.
Sorry, are we saying budget up to 33.2 then? Because in theory, we might not spend any of the 15. So if we approve 32, we might not spend 32, so shouldn't, if I'm reading it, maybe I'm reading it incorrectly, but we want to approve a budget of 33.2, so should be approve a budget up to 33.2 if we've got the 15,000 in contingency?
Oh, sorry, that was my fault.
No, just based on the, I thought Mayor Snodgrass was taking control. Just based on the fact that we
haven't muted you yet.
And then I got a couple other questions after that.
So actually, what's already being pre-approved was the 16,380. This would be additional funds on top of that 16,380 that had already been previously approved. If the 15,000 isn't spent, that would go back into the funding source.
Okay, up to. Okay, next thing. Bike rack? If Jeff was here, I would ask, and I think Jeff would say the same thing I would. The kids aren't going to put their bike in a bike rack. I BMX'd a whole bunch of my life, and the bike hit the ground. We didn't diligently put it away, and I don't know, somebody might say, concession about locking your bike up, but it's going to be a whole lot of youth, hopefully, and they all kind of look after their own stuff. That world just kind of works that way. If somebody takes somebody else's bike, it gets sorted out pretty quick. So I know it's not a lot of money, but it's just going to occupy another space, and dollars to donuts, a kid never puts his bike in the bike rack. And that's the same comment about bleachers. Are we going to have races? Are we going to have spectators? Because we put some picnic tables, didn't we? So that facilitates more of that social aspect of what that thing is going to do. In my opinion, but anyway, just a couple of comments about things we're spending money on that maybe we don't need to.
And so I guess I could answer to those questions. We've just provided pricing that was based on the plan that was approved by council, and so we're just bringing forward what it's going to cost if we complete the project as presented and displayed to the community. So by all means, we can, if council sees fit on changing some of those expenses, absolutely. The bike rack hasn't been ordered yet, only the pad's been poured.
I'm not the expert from the bike committee, so being that Paula and Jeff are gone, they're traveling, the bike committee should maybe make that choice. I don't know if it was just a nice to have or a need to have, but.
Anybody else? I got 2 green seats. I have no idea what it means, because it's not coming up with anything else.
If I switch to you, the PTZ will zoom in on you.
Huh. Don't do that. Go ahead, Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. A couple of questions. I thought Riley was good at contingency, but this is like way over 50% contingency. Come on. I'm also looking at the bike rack, and there's something seems wrong with the math here. It says $785 for the rack itself and $1,000 for the concrete pad. So in my head, that tells me $1,985, but in the bike rack, they're asking for $1,185.
Sorry, that number hasn't been updated. That's another error. So the bike rack itself was $985. There were costs associated with the forms and the rebar, and the only piece that was moved was the $1,000 for concrete. So the $1,185 encompasses the cost of the bike rack and the forms and rebar.
Okay, thank you. If we were to approve something with like a 5,000 contingency that you talked about earlier, would that get the project done?
As long as no other further unforeseen circumstances arise.
Tough question.
My biggest thing is the labor cost, if we have to bring in laborers on a short notice.
Thank you.
Councillor Killick-Smith? No, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Walsh? Oh, you're C. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, we should have just changed seats. I'm often called B. What is the accountability or follow-up with this funding? So I understand the importance of let's get this project complete, but I also agree with the other comments that we're just dumping money hand over fist, and in this case, the 16, that was an extra. We gave them back their reserve fund, all of the things, and now we're topping it up again, and to me, it paints a picture of unlimited. Oh yeah, here's some more. So what's the accountability there? At this meeting, we're saying that this funding can be made available, that's approved, but we'll wait and see what happens, whether this scenario does play out and they require it, because, I mean, I don't want to say them when they go back out and then, oh yeah, no, we've got this, and I'm sure they're a good group, that's not where I'm going, but how is this defined as to when it goes?
Yeah, so for these funds that will be approved, these funds will then follow the Town of High River's budgeting process. So the funds will be held by the Town of High River administrative staff, and the invoices will come in and be reviewed by us to be approved for payment. So then we're able to keep it strictly on the scope that we've presented here to be approved, and only those funds get approved for the different pieces of the project.
So it's safe to assume that the contingency fund that you've put in place is for an as-needed only, and it will be overseen by yourself with the documents supporting the use of the money?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Any other councillors? Nothing? Jenny? Did you have your hand up? Go ahead, Jenny, first. Then we'll go to Kelly.
Thank you. I definitely want to see this project completed. It looks beautiful, and I think it's a great addition to our parks. Obviously, when you come to the end and there's costs associated, like Brenda said, they kind of just keep coming at us. I don't know if there's something we can learn from this, or a better way that community groups can deal with the town in order for these things to be addressed beforehand rather than coming to us after the fact, because we can't have an unfinished project sitting there, for sure. I get that. But maybe if there wasn't enough money to begin with, maybe we shouldn't have started it, right? So I just don't know if there's a way we can learn from this particular project or other projects that have happened and find ways to help these community organizations who have put this hard work, this time, all their effort into this. And in the end, right, it's pretty stressful financially, the time frame. And some of these things are definitely sort of unforeseen. But if there is something to be learned from it, I'd like to find ways to work with community groups in a better way in the future.
Kelly?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass, and I agree with Councillor Jones. And I guess further to that, can we have a clarified number? Because I'm sorry, I was paying attention, but I'd just like to know for the benefit of what we would be saying yes to here. Thank you.
So the number would be $33,200, and this includes a contingency of $15,000. Now, that's for the additional ask today, because the $16,380 has already been approved. So this would be in addition to the $16,380.
So really, we're looking at just shy of $50,000 total.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I would just like to add, it's weird. Just like to add, in terms of the clarification, I have to apologize. I was in it last minute changing numbers, so any math errors are mine, not Kaylee's.
There's your contingency guy again, eh?
It actually was. Kaylee had 5,000 in it originally. Kaylee had 5,000 contingency originally. There was concerns with regards to how the volunteer situation would pay out, as we have had some challenges to date. So yes, that was me, Jamie.
So Kaylee, Town of High River direct cash funding to this has so far been $16,380 for irrigation. Now we're looking for another 18, right? 18 plus the 15 contingency kind of thing?
Yeah, so the $16,380 plus the $33,200.
Right. Gives us approximately $49,000, right?
That's correct.
If we spend it all. Total project cost, we're probably in around that 300K number now, right?
We're
Alex
more
is
than
nodding
that,
his head
because
back there,
the
so I
ramp,
know.
the park itself was $260.
Yeah, so $300,000 project. Town of High River might have to put, at the end of the day, might have to put in $49K.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all in. That's pretty good. Cargill funded 75, HBO funded 80,000, community donations, the remainder. I think we're getting pretty damn good bang for our buck. And this is going to be a fantastic project, so it's going to be well done. And, you know, doing these community things, and we want to work with the community and everything else, yeah, the town of High River could just take the project over every time and do it all. But I don't know if that's good motivation for your community members to be involved. Sometimes this stuff's just messy. Not everything's perfect and going to be smooth and seamless. It's just going to be messy. You got to get it done, and you're doing that. So, I don't know. I'm all in. I like the words "up to," though. And I trust the committee, and I trust the committee. I trust our administration to respect the fact that you're dealing with taxpayer dollars, right? So just respect that and make sure that we're spending the money. If we don't have to spend the 15, don't. It's that easy. So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council approve a budget of up to $33,200. That's still the right number, correct? Okay. No, sir, not at this point in time, because I've got a motion coming on. We have a public comment section right after this that you will have your voice for, sir. Thank you. The council approve a budget of up to $33,200 to cover the cost, which includes a $15,000 contingency, to cover the cost of the amenities proposed for the park and coverages associated to the construction of the pump track itself due to market condition and unforeseen circumstances. This is in addition to the previously approved $16,380 for irrigation and the in-kind installation of trees. This also does not include the optional bleachers. All of that. Brenda.
I'm happy to give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Board and committee reports. Is there any councillor that's got anything to share? Councillor Killick-Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to applaud the Chamber of Commerce for the first day of a number of speaking series. I would encourage anybody who's able to join in. There's 2 more programmed for October and November. I think it's a wonderful initiative that they're taking on and would encourage everybody to take part in if they get a chance.
Thank you. Anyone else? See none, hear none. Now is our public comments section. So, sir, if you'd like to come up to the front and state your name. Do we still have that microphone available? Kent's got it for you there.
Good day. My name is Victor Bassick, and I have a pump track.
Is that microphone on? Sorry, Kent.
It is on, but I think the mask is...
Okay. I'll just turn you up a little bit so if we can see if we can remain with the mask.
Anyhow, I live behind...
I got to get you to speak directly into that mic for us to thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Got you there.
Okay.
Yep.
I live directly behind this thing called a pump track. It's destroyed our privacy in the neighborhood, and we've been offered maybe a couple of trees. This is completely unacceptable. In 2019, we came to council. We were told to cut our presentation short because we were objected to the park. We have never been contacted by the town or anybody since, and we are left hanging out with people peering into our bathrooms, our living rooms, and our bedrooms. And this is not acceptable behavior by this town. And this park was done behind our backs. It was approved 5 months before we even had a chance to say. And we heard it because there was an open house. And this was the first that the people that had access that were directly related to the park, and we didn't have any sets of comments, and we were completely left out of the process. And this is not fair, and we need something between us and the park to protect our privacy. And a few trees that are 10 feet high is not going to have it, because the top of the track in front, back of my yard is 6 feet above the ground level.
Thank you. So at no time in this council chambers have I ever stopped a presentation short.
2019 September pump track where people were out here, and you told us to keep it short, speed it up, and don't continue with the process.
Well, yeah, you know, if we're going to, if a delegation thinks they're coming in here and going to sit here for 2 hours and just no, you weren't. I can guarantee you it was. Oh, I can, because I'm the chair of these meetings, and that's how I conduct these meetings. I would absolutely. I'm not going to get in this fight with you, sir. I'm just not. So I get what you're saying. We will work together. If there's something that we can do with trees or whatever, Kaylee, you can. What would you like to see, sir?
How about a sound barrier between the properties and the park?
A sound barrier.
At least a concrete barrier or a forest of trees, not evergreens to block privacy 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Deciduous trees aren't going to be accepted.
So I got to ask. That's been a park since the day it started. There's a playground there. There's a spray park there. There's been kids' activities in that park all the time.
Right, it's not the issue. They're on gravel level, but the track is 6 feet high, 10 feet from my house, which people appear to stare in our windows.
I don't know that kids on a pump track are going to have time to stare into your windows.
This is 6 feet above me right now.
Yeah.
People are standing on top of the track, peering into our windows.
Hmm.
And it's 10 feet away from us. It's standing up at the top of the ceiling of this
So, sir, if we put a sound barrier there, how high would that sound barrier have to be? Obviously above the 6 feet, right?
It's going to have to be at least 6 to 10 feet to allow us to have some decent privacy.
So is that really what is going to solve this problem? Is that we build a wall all the way along to block you out from a playground? Does that make community sense to you, sir? I gotta ask, because I'm struggling.
I'm struggling as well. I think I've lost $200,000 in my property in the last 2 weeks because of this park. That's all you see when looking out of our bedroom or our kitchen window is this monstrosity 6 feet above the ground. Would you approve of me putting a ladder 6 feet and a half high above your house and sitting on top of it and looking in your window?
Is that what they're doing? No.
Yes.
No, you can't compare that. Well, not really. You can't compare like you putting a ladder in my backyard and looking into my windows to kids on a pump track. It's two different things. I'm sorry. There's certain rationale that I have to address in some of these conversations. I'm sorry, sir. I get it, but are they going to sit up there and be looking into your rooms? No. Did kids look into your windows beforehand?
No.
Okay, I don't know that they're interested in doing that now. They're on a pump track. We can address, and Kaylee will work with you to try to find solutions that make sense along there, but if we're looking for a 10 or 12 foot wall to make a sound barrier and a visual barrier to that, there's no way I can ever support doing that in a community.
How about a decent amount of trees that are evergreens?
That's absolutely something we can look at.
Pretty large, at least a half
Trees make way more sense to me than a wall. Absolutely, sir.
And that softens the whole situation, as long as there are evergreens and they're there, health protection 24 and 365 days a year.
Okay, and evergreens do that, yeah, absolutely, I get it.
Deciduous trees, interspersed, will definitely help during the summer, but the rest of the year, we are stuck looking at people irritating our windows.
Okay. Kaylee will take your concerns and she'll work with you to address those. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Anybody else for public comments, questions before we move on? See none, I hear none. Council correspondence requiring action. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that Council support Mayor Snodgrass in proclaiming September 4th, 2022 as the Town of High River's National Polycystic Kidney Disease Awareness Day.
You have my motion, Mayor.
Sorry, we got a lot going on with microphones. I'm just about to turn the whole system off if I hit one more button, so I'm out. All in favor? Carried. Bow Valley College, new campus in Okotoks. That's for a motion from Councillor Nychuk that Mayor and Council will notify administration if they are able to attend the event on September 22nd.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Carried. At this time, we're going to be moving into a closed meeting, so I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that Council recess the regular council meeting on September 12, 2022 at 4:46 p.m. and moved into a closed meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I'll give you that motion.
I gotta turn this thing down before it explodes. That ain't how to